Welcome to Welcome to Up Close, Meet the Poet Behind the Verse. I am your host, River Maria Erke, and here to help me pull this off is a mutual poet and good friend, Julie Martin.
Hello, everybody.
Here at Up Close, we showcase one poet a month with an interview, a poetry reading, and a giveaway. It is our goal to introduce to you the person behind the poems. Now, before we start, I have to do a couple housekeeping things and remind our Zoom audience to remain muted during the duration of the show. And we do encourage audience questions. You can put them in the chat, and if we have time at the end, we'll dive into them. We need to do a shout out to our sponsors, LUMP, the League of Minnesota Poets. And we'll have a giveaway today. I'll give more of the details later. And I need to remind us all that we are live on Facebook. With that, I'd like you to sit back and I will introduce to you our March Up Close poet, Peter Stein. Many of us know Peter as the president of the League of Minnesota Poets. Today, meet Peter, the stay-at-home father, the amateur photographer, the poet who often writes along the edge of reality. But first, let's learn a little background info on Peter. He was born and raised in Minnesota and grew up in Duluth. Throughout high school, he was a cross-country runner and skier. He graduated in '99 from Marshall High School. He continued his cross-country ways in college, attending St. Joseph's near St. Cloud with its beautiful grounds. Peter graduated from there with a philosophy degree in 2003. That same year, he got married. Currently, Peter and his wife, Stephanie, and their 4 sons live in Minneapolis near Lake Nokomis. He works part-time for a small accounting business and is a stay-at-home father. Free moments in the summer, Peter can be often found paddling on Lake Nokomis in his kayak. Peter's poetry has appeared in places such as The Talking Stick, Martin Lake Journal, Nice Cage, the Banfield Lock Center for the Arts Chapbook, and the Road by Heart Poems of Fatherhood anthology. His collection of poems, Autobio, was published in 2001 by Amber Sky Publishing. Without further ado, let's welcome Peter Stein.
Hello, thank you for having me, River.
Totally. So, Peter, you've been writing poetry since elementary school.
I have, yes.
I believe you have a story from 6th grade for us when poetry saved your butt for the first time. What happened?
Yeah, so in 6th grade, there was a journaling project that we were supposed to do for English. I, in typical fashion, had procrastinated, and as we were supposed to have one thing per day done, and I didn't do it per day, I had somehow had to catch up on this backlog of journaling. So what I decided to do is write a poem for each day, and my English teacher thankfully accepted that as making up for not writing actual journaling. Many of them were about my collection of stuffed animals, actually, too, that I had. My grandma would give me a stuffed animal every birthday and usually Christmas too, of a variety of animals from like aardvarks and hedgehogs. So I had a lot of interesting animals to write about in my journals. So. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when I started writing poetry, but I do remember that I definitely wrote a bulk of poems in the 6th grade and kind of continued with it from there. So,
Well, and then through high school and into college, you were a cross-country skier and runner. Similar activities of 2 different seasons. What is it about these 2 outside activities you enjoy so much?
just getting outside and exploring, and cross-country skiing and running you basically just pick a trail and keep going and to see what's out there in the woods. And fresh air. And growing up in Duluth, there's plenty of places to run along creeks and in woods and by lakes. So it was very scenic up there.
Is it somewhat similar to kayaking for you now?
Kind of, yes, I would say so. I tend to kayak on Lake Nokomis. I've also hit up the Mississippi and the Minnesota rivers nearby too. And it's quite a different view when you get down in the river from what we're normally used to driving over the bridge and around town that way. So.
Cool. Well, in 2010, you published your first full-size poetry collection, Auto Bio. Can you tell us the premise behind the book, and can we hear a poem?
Yeah, sure. Here's the cover. I can't see my own screen here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So a friend of mine who was in photography at the time did the cover. And it's actually not a black and white cover, but it's an infrared photography. So the warm things such as the grass and the tree, if you can see it, show up white. And the non-heat, the sky in the background and this barn show up dark. So it's kind of an interesting contrast. The book itself called Auto Bio, it's the name behind it, it's not exactly an autobiography, kind of far from it actually, but I chose auto and bio, and in the intro I have a few definitions. Auto comes from the Greek word autos, meaning self, and bio from the Greek word bios, meaning life. So the life of the self. And auto also without external assistance or influence, and starting or functioning independently. And bio, a system of organisms, and a living thing with a biological process capable of growth. So those two things, we often refer to autobiographies as, writings about the self, but this was kind of an exploration of the self as mechanical as well as biological. So a poem from the book I would like to read tonight is called The Arsonist. The Arsonist. I am a ghost caught on fire, flickering with flesh, bones providing the fuel, and ash as the radiant mind coats surrounding with soot. As I move amidst other latent souls set ablaze with abundance and interaction. Potential energy of free floating form erupts into kinetic sentience that resonates wave after wave of energy, intense sense of presence among the desolate. A rising awareness becomes contagious to my companion apparitions. We dance and howl. Night lights up with consciousness. A roaring flame enticing the moon to fall from isolation and join the awakening.
Wow, that's that ending.
Thanks.
Yes. So this book, Auto Bio, is what you're going to give away for our giveaway today. And you're giving two, right?
Yes.
And so everybody out there and our Zoom audience can participate. You can pick one. You have one choice you can put in the chat between 1 and 50. There'll be two. We have two numbers, so there'll be two winners. and we will announce the winner at the end of the show. So with that, let's see, you graduated from St. Joseph's with a philosophy major.
St. John's. Yes.
St. John's, yeah, I got that. I screwed up.
Within
myself.
St. Joseph, St. Joseph's is the town that's right next to St. John's.
That is that St. John's is in. There we
Yeah.
go. Okay.
A lot of saints in that area. So
I know. Then we got St. Cloud. There's a lot of
Yeah.
saints over there. My goodness. How would you say philosophy inspires or influences your poetry?
I would say the exploration of thought, and with the autobio, the explanation or the examination of self. And I tend to write existential, and kind of that those ideas kind of weave in my writing quite a bit. So I think that really influenced how I thought about things. And I also think philosophy, in terms of just thinking about things differently from just what you see, is conducive to poetry, because poetry is very much like that, where you see and observe things, and then you take an approach of a different angle in writing, and kind of look at the everyday world from a different angle. So I think it's very conducive to poetry.
I see your point there totally. And when I asked you about how would you explain your poetry, you told me that some of your poems are abstract, kind of weird or out there.
Yeah,
Can you explain that to us? And I believe you have a poem to give her an example.
I do. And I think in terms of, I do like to play around with ideas, stemming back to the philosophy, as well as form, and just playing around with even the way that the narratives are told within the poem. I like to experiment. Some of the experiments don't always turn out that well, and I won't be reading those ones tonight. But other ones do, I think, and I will read one here as kind of an example. So this poem is called Numerology. There is an answer to all of this, but what, I will never know for sure. Of that, I have unwavering confidence. 2. I know what you're thinking. 2? Was there a 1? No. And there will be no 3. 3. The last time we met, you were traveling approximately the speed of light. At the time, I was a window. 5. Where did I leave off? Did you leave? I'll start again from 4. 11. I should be sad, but I'm not, so I drink until my eyes overflow with whiskey. 4. Numbers are arbitrary. When you are born, we are handed 4. Numbers are arbitrary. When we are born, we're handed one on a little slip of paper and told not to look. If we do, well, then our number is up. Pi. I should be angry, but even after a pint of whiskey, I only raise my fist, my voice, for a toast. Omega. We talk of end times like beginning times like end times. We never consider what happens in between. Alpha. Let's begin again. Pretend none of this ever happened because one.
Oh, that was a great poem. Um, now this one, I've been one of the things I've been the most curious about. But you have a chapbook project that you've been working on, and it's called Asshole Anonymous.
Yes.
Can you please explain to us what that's about, and can we hear a poem?
Yeah. So the project, it kind of started off with, I like to do persona poems and exploring characters. So it kind of started off that way with just writing from the persona of maybe unsavory characters or people who aren't exactly perfect, as we all have our own flaws. And the idea kind of, after I wrote a couple poems, I kind of continued with the idea of Assholes Anonymous, of this idea that we're all working to be better people and that we're all assholes on some level. Like, there's moments in all of our lives where we can probably think of like, oh yeah, that was, I can't believe I did that, or like, what was I doing? Even if we didn't mean to be, or, that kind of thing. So, so it kind of came out of that. And let's see, here is a poem from that chapbook that I am working on. It's called Thanatology. The mortician stitches the seams so they are unseen, paints over any mistake with makeup. Everyone notices how unnoticeable the wounds are. When I offer sympathies, should I knock or ring the bell? What kind of bouquet should I bring? There is such a thing as the wrong kind of flowers.
Mhm.
Condolences are a warm knife. Sympathies hang like a breath in cold air. Loss and grief are very different things. Loss is a refinery fire. Grief, the oil slick, is a process, they say, which means you'll never reach the end you're running toward, but you'll get in great shape. I've never lost anything of grave importance, but run to the florist on the way to a wake, who recommends fake flowers. They're always thought of in bloom.
Wow. It's kind of a strange thing about Zoom is that eerie quietness.
Yeah.
Do you ever, I know I personally, when I'm reading, I have a hard time with that.
Although I do like to say that in Zoom, like if you don't hear, or if there's sometimes when you're in a live audience and you get
Yeah.
no reaction, at least in Zoom, you don't feel bad because you can't hear anybody else anyway. So
That's
that's
true.
how I look at it.
That's true.
Optimistic.
You don't hear the bad things as you don't hear the good things. Well, the last 6 years, you have been the president of the League of Minnesota Poets. You've fulfilled 3 two-year terms. And this spring, you stepped down.
Mhm.
What are your feelings about that?
I'm glad to have had this experience and be a part of the League of Minnesota Poets. It's really been a pleasure, and obviously I will keep on with the board and working with the League of Minnesota Poets, so I'll still be involved, absolutely. It's I kind of see it sort of as artistic jury duty in terms of volunteering and being a part of an organization. And the league has really kept my poetry going, and just the camaraderie. They have 2 retreats and 2 conferences every year. And, uh, in the retreats, everybody just gets together and is writing, and we eat and we write all weekend. And it's such an encouraging organization too, as I've seen people come into the poetry retreats that haven't written or read out loud to anybody before, and here they are coming in and opening up to the group with poetry, which can be, excuse me, very personal. And, it's just great to see people share and to connect, which is what poetry is all about, I think. So, yeah, it's been a great experience, and it'll be nice not to run the meetings anymore.
Be responsible for the whole thing.
I mean, planning wise, there's a lot there that I do in terms of, I think especially this last couple of years, the chapters and the chapter presidents have really been doing all sorts of outreach programs that I can just be like, yes, here's my blessing, here's how the league can help. Up close poets is an example. It's like, this is an amazing thing. How can we help you? We can send out publicity. We can, give you access to our Zoom, and, the poetry walks that the Mississippi Valley Poets and Writers have done. Thank you, Annette Gagliardi. There's just so many things that, and to be a part of that, even though I'm not actually doing a lot of that work, it's just great to be a part of that and to see that in blossom. So
Totally. I mean, it's you make it possible. And one thing about the conference, I went to the fall conference for the first time, and one thing I was really, I don't know, kind of struck me is at the conference there were poets that were exceptionally good, older poets that have been around a long time that I have never heard of or never seen. And they just show up at that conference, or whatever, that's their connection to that is the league. Yeah. They don't go online, they don't do these other things, and that's where I got to meet them. That was really cool.
Yeah. And well, I mean, before COVID, we had started to do some poet trekking, which was we did a run up to Ely and Duluth. We just loaded up a van of poets from the cities, and then we had joint readings with cities poets and Duluth poets and Ely poets, and then we did one to Rochester and Mankato too. And hopefully we're gonna get out and do more of that sort of stuff now that we can get out and do things again. So yeah, looking forward to that, and just meeting poets from all over the state and sharing that experience.
Well, now when I talk about your fatherhood, yes. You've been a stay-at-home dad for what did you say when your guys' third child was born? You decided that it was just going to be financially more feasible.
Yeah. I was when our third out of fourth kid was born, which, well, 11 years ago, I guess now. I was working in the nonprofit sector program or company called Kaposia for adults with disabilities. And my wife works for Wells Fargo, so her company obviously paid a larger portion of the bills than mine. And then I decided to stay home, as it would just be working 40 hours to pay the daycare. So
yeah, it's better to be back home with the children, and then I can see how much easier that was. And still today, because the ages of your children they're all boys.
Yeah, and I call them my couplets. because an AB rhyme scheme with those couplets, because we had two 2 years apart and then about a 6 year stanza break and then two more that were about 2 years apart, and each of the oldest kind of looks this similar, and then the second and the fourth kind of look similar and have similar demeanors as well too. So they're kind of AB rhyming couplets. That's how I describe my kids.
And one's 19 and 17 and 11 and 10.
Yes.
Okay. I'm curious because being a mother myself, and my daughter's over 18 now too. What is your children's opinion of you being a poet?
They're fairly indifferent to it. They don't get wrapped up too much. I mean, I've shared some poems with them, and sometimes they're like, eh. I mean, especially if they're about said child, I usually share it with them, and they themselves don't necessarily write a whole lot of poetry. My oldest is getting into writing more in the fantasy genre, though. But
Uh-oh. Hold on,
there
Peter.
we
Yep,
come
I
back.
accidentally. Are you okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, my oldest, Eric, submitted, we have a Manningham youth competition, which just wrapped up in January, but it's students can submit their poems to win monetary prizes. And then they go on to the national competition in the sponsored by the National Federation of State Poets Societies, which the League of Minnesota is a part of. So they publish a student manuscripts of the winning poems of students from around the country, which is pretty cool. So
That is cool.
yeah, my oldest missed the deadline with the poem that I kept poking and prodding him to submit, but you know how it is. It's hard to get them invested in poetry, but
Oh yeah. It's I don't know. I myself found, and I wondered if you had that as us parents, what we do, our children are just kind of put their noses against, They're like, no. But so yeah. And now let's see here. Another book project that you've been working on is your second full-size poetry collection I think it's called Pure Land Blues. Is that right?
yes.
Okay. Can you tell us about this one, and can we hear a poem?
Yes. Let's see here. Gotta remember which one was in the so this project kind of came about as a collection of poems that sort of revolves around the name Pure Land Blues, of sort of coping with the struggles in the world, as well as realizing what overwhelming beauty there is in it as well too, and just that sort of contrast of experiences, and I do have a poem here. Maybe that might be. So I'm trying to figure out which one I picked out that is part of that. Okay, here's actually the one that I have possibly slated for the first. But this project actually formulated on the milkweed competition when they had their manuscript. And I knew I probably wasn't going to win. There's like 400 entries. It's a free full manuscript thing, but it was a good way to say, okay, I'm going to sit down and compile a complete manuscript and submit it. And then that way I at least had a working manuscript. It was a good way to challenge myself and to really get my work together. And it's been a while since I submitted to that and have done anything with it, but it's, maybe I'll focus on that again.
Do you mean the milkweed one where you win $10,000?
Yes. Yeah. I believe Michael Kleber Diggs won the last one. So the competition is obviously immensely challenging. There are a lot of incredibly talented poets that you're competing with. But it was still great.
It's not international though. It's just the tri-state. So states that it's a little.
Yeah. But there's a lot of like the people that I've seen that have been winners and also know that submitted and didn't get accepted are like, wow, yeah, this is awesome work. So, but yeah, but it's a great experience to get yourself out there and just to get spend the time to really formulate the manuscript so it's there. So
did you find that you have revisited that manuscript a couple times and reorganized it, or did you stick to the same?
Yeah, definitely. Even from the time that I submitted to Milkweed, it's undergone a transformation. After the initial submission, which I think was probably about 6 years ago now, that was kind of like the first draft that I submitted. And then a poetry friend of mine, John Calvin Rosmersky, who has since passed, that I met through the League of Minnesota Poet, is an amazing poet and individual. I had him help me workshop some of the poems as well as what to include for some of the poems. He's published many manuscripts himself, as well as has worked on closely with other people's work. So he helped me kind of formulate it since then as well too. It is kind of interesting though, like when you let something sit for a while, and I don't know, maybe this is me or other poets have the same experience, but like you almost want to move on. Like I did that and now I want to focus on the next project. Like, with my book, it's like I rarely read from it. I mean, it was 2012, which 10 years ago, which doesn't seem like that long ago, but at the same time it's like, okay, I did that thing, now I want to move on to more work, and I don't know. So
it's kind of a closure.
Yeah, so sometimes it's hard to go back, but it's good too, especially if it's a manuscript that you want to get out in the world that people haven't heard, because even my first book, it's out there in the world, but there's a lot of people I can still share it with that might enjoy it. So
do you find you get tired of reading poems from those books? Is that part of it?
a little bit, yeah. Some of the poems, definitely, there's some that I really like and would read over and over for but it was interesting with the book because I hadn't gone back to my book in quite some time, and 10 years ago I was quite a different person, and things in the world were quite different. And it, just to see those poems from a different place, that maybe you're not in that same place anymore, or have seen more things or come at things. But then that inspires new poetry. So that is good as well too. So.
Do you find you have to hold yourself back from editing them?
No, usually I'm pretty disciplined of like, if I say, okay, this is it, like that's it. I mean, there's some that poems I've been working on for a number of years. And nothing's like final until it's printed in a book. So if there is, even though I say, oh, I'm done with this poem, I might, when I go to submit, be like, oh, maybe I should just tweak this or a word here, or if I see something. But I don't specifically sit down to rehash a poem that I've already deemed done. If that makes sense.
Oh, it does. It totally does. Well, did we hear a poem from that?
No, not yet. We got
Okay, I wonder who you kind of went off there.
Okay, so this is what I have so far as the first poem. It's called Cosmogony. I count the angels dancing on the planet, the size of a pinhead compared to the godliness of the sun. The universe was once smaller, before blowing up like a balloon. Scattered ashes of stars are now the earth's iron heart. I rest my head against the ground like a newborn on a mother's chest, to discover the pulse that beats beneath the lithic skin, breathes water, bleeds lava, and feeds all she has to offer in the short time before both our heavenly bodies are reclaimed. What will be born from this gestation? The child opens its eyes to notice the lack of walls, the massive void, the unavoidable light.
Whew. Wow. So you have found a passion for photography as an adult. And you have, what is your favorite subject to film and why?
I have been doing a lot of landscape and nature photography. One of the things that really kind of got me into it, though, was taking pictures of the exposed lake ice. And as you can tell from what I've read, probably like enjoying the cosmos and pondering the universe as a whole. The lake ice, when it's exposed like that, there's so many wild formations. And the picture, I think you posted my headshot with the head, and I was laying down on the ice and took a picture.
Okay.
It looks very cosmic, and it's almost a dysphoric situation, because you don't necessarily, like in the pictures, you could have like absolutely no clue of what it actually is, and it just kind of lets your mind run wild with what you see, and trying to place it in the real world. It kind of jars your mind, I think. So that's why I like taking those ice pictures.
I can see that. It's kind of like your poetry. It kind of gets people's brains, their minds working and thinking.
Mhm.
Well, and in a little while, if you read the poem, I have a picture, one of his photos to pop up. But this will conclude the interview portion of the show, and now it's time for the poetry reading. Afterwards, we will announce the winner of the giveaway. And so if you haven't yet put your guess in the chat, you have few more minutes to do so. Take it away, Peter. You got 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, I'll start off with the one that you.
Oh, wait,
mentioned.
let's do that 1 second so I can get it
Oh,
up.
second. Okay. Okay. Let's see. What else do I want to read here? Okay. So this one is called Over the Cliff and Through the Fog, but not necessarily in that order. The musicality of this moment must resonate with someone on the planet, but right now a very different wave travels through my body to find out what's wrong. Wrong isn't the right word. Going on is the doctor's word choice. They're not sure either, and using unknown rays to come up with another set of questions. Have you noticed a burning sensation in your earlobes at night? Does your left testicle become agitated when you walk or run? How is your spleen feeling today? I'd rather drive off a cliff than speed through a dense fog. I could watch the geological life of the earth flash before my eyes. Every moment is beautiful from the right angle, but there's no point in visiting Big Sur on a foggy day. A week later, the doctor calls me back to the office and points to a word in an incomprehensible dictionary, like it's a Bible verse that will save me from damnation. Treatable is the only word I recognize. Cue the strings. Choral voices lift along with the fog. I see the cliff. What a view.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'm almost there.
All right. Yeah. So this is one of the photographs that has become quite popular as I've been promoting my
I
work.
just did something. Sorry, you guys.
Okay. Yeah, so this is one of my favorite, and I wrote this poem about this particular piece of the lake ice. Hand of ice. You press your palm against the glass of a frozen lake. The cells in your hand begin to contract like they're squeezing blood from a stone. The nerves surge numbness up the spine. This is how it feels to feel. Compression of data in the brain, blood resisting the urge to solidify. By you, I mean me, alone on the lake. The ice, a conduit to connect the surface tension between a human hand and God, if there is such a thing. How much of this can I take before the gloves go back on? I leave my hand behind to permanently feel this fleeting form for you to find centuries from now. Will you hold it and feel heat? Do you know the cold of molecules slowing to absolute zero? Or the beam of a star light years away, exciting every particle of your body. When I lay hands on the ice, I am reminded of this cool abyss and the warmth that pushes back.
Wow. There we go. That's pretty cool.
Thanks.
You got like maybe like 3 more poems or 2 or
Yeah, I got a couple more. Let's see. I was gonna. Okay, yep. So I got 3 more and okay, yeah, this is the order I'll do them into. Okay, so this is sort of a, I like to read this with other poets, sort of ars poetica. It's called Poets Are Thieves, and they steal everything of value, and they see the value in everything. They swipe moonlight and store it in their pockets. They round up strangers on the street corner and keep them in their attic. Snip bits of conversation and place them in their purses. These people are robbing us of wealth we never knew we had, palming the time off our watches, using it to wind sundials, to see dawns already gone. We need to catch these thieves by the ankles, turn them upside down, and shake out what they've taken right under our noses. They've broken into our mental vaults to take emotions we've guarded so closely and grow them into roses with paper thorns in public gardens without charging a dime. I've had enough of poets handing out laughter and weeping like they are the same thing. Even our worst moments, ones I've tried to turn into a prophet, they pluck them like wilted petals worth their weight in rose water. Our personal suffering lifted for raw material to smith words that poets hand out on street corners, where the people who receive them cry and say thank you. There's that one. And then this is another sort of ars poetica one, poetry about poetry that more so about art, but just inspires, I was inspired to write something about art to keep going and the value of art, no matter how big or how small, or even if it just stays in your journal or, you know, even just sharing with a couple of people. So sort of a self-reminder, if you will, for myself. It's called Your Art is Priceless. You own a private gallery with a seemingly blank canvas, and from the dust, a vision coalesces. Kinetic energy builds as the friction of thoughts collide in the weight of your consciousness. The moment ignites a movement, a brushstroke, a pen mark, a musical note, the snap of a camera. Open your doors, let in those celestial minds peering into space to find a sign of life. Hang your creation in the gallery of another being's mind to spark a response. Wow, how did they? Or I never thought to look at it like that. Or I really needed to see that today. With this creative concoction forged in the gravity of your passion, a light, a heat, radiates through the void that makes someone's day a little more bearable. and reminds anyone out there searching for connection from their own personal space, we are not alone. So that was written during COVID, if people couldn't tell.
Very comforting.
Good reminder. Okay. So I have one more that kind of segues into that. Maybe this is a little more of a downer poem to end with, but this is called "There Are No Patterns But the Ones We Conceive. Like the language of stars sifting onto our screens is static. We imagine they are communicating the secrets of the universe, but those snowflakes are only screams into a mostly empty universe. A stellar song and dance that, to be honest, we never would have noticed had we not invented the television. When those messages first appeared in living rooms around the world, we tuned in to see the elegant chaos of the cosmos on display right before our eyes. We asked ourselves, what else is on?
Well, so
Nice.
nice. Now we gotta get a hold of Julie. And Julie, do we have
Okay.
some winners?
Okay, and so the idea is to come as close as you can without going over.
Yes.
Barry guessed at 26.
Oh,
and
Barry.
One of the winning numbers was 27. And George is the other winner, coming 32 was the closest, coming to the number 42.
Well, both of
Answer to
you,
everything, right?
send a direct message to Peter with your address, and then he can send it to you. And we still have a couple more minutes. Let's say, Barry, you are, I don't know how many months? How many
I've
times-
been lucky. I went to Tony's last time and I got one there too. I'm just
Oh,
lucky,
and you
I
got
don't
one
know why.
last month too, I believe.
I did. Twice with you before.
Yeah, I thought so. So this is your third one.
You know, the secret is to be in the middle. I'm going to give you guys the secrets.
Well, Julie, are there any questions that popped up?
No, but I have a question. I have two questions.
Okay.
One, I've heard Poets Are Thieves, or I've read Poets Are Thieves, and I'm wondering where I would have read it. Where was it published?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, it gets to be a.
I might have. I read it at the one of the league contests. I think it was a winner there.
Okay, yes.
But you didn't go to that.
I didn't go to it, but I got to see the winning poems.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that was one question. Second of all, I'm a Minneapolis public school teacher and you look very familiar. And I wonder if your kids went to Clara Barton Open School.
They did not go to Clara Barton. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
You look familiar. I thought maybe you had been at a PTO meeting. But you just,
I around town, maybe. I don't know.
yeah, yep.
I do live right across from Winona, Key Wade, or the Winona. My kids went there.
Uh-huh.
It was pretty nice because once they got in school, I could just like send them out of the house and watch them from my window. Across the street. So,
It was just across the street.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
is so nice.
Yeah.
It's different. It's
They
for- in
have
a
to
big
walk
city.
farther to catch the bus nowadays. So
Mary Jo Robinson would like you to repeat the names of your books.
oh, okay. Well, the one book that I have actually published his autobio. The other one that the full length one that I was working on was Pure Land, or is Pure Land Blues. And then the chapbook called Assholes Anonymous.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
It really is.
A great name. Well,
Wanted to make a comment if I could with Peter.
yes, totally.
Yeah, you were talking about your kids. I remember I wrote a poem for my youngest and I showed it to her or gave it to her. And she says, "That's okay, Dad, but you can't read this in public." So, yeah.
Hardy, did you read it in public?
I'm afraid, don't tell her.
Okay.
Was that one of the ones?
Tell her she has to show up to all your poetry readings to make sure. You know.
Hardy, was that one of the ones I asked you to read last month?
I think it was, yeah. In the fatherhood book, you know.
Yep. The one, yeah. The one I can see how that.
Yeah, if it's like show up at all my poetry readings, the next question is, are there going to be cute boys there?
Oh, yes. Yes, I've found myself embarrassing. Being an artist and a poet is embarrassing.
Oh, yeah.
What's up?
But
To your kids?
yes.
Oh, okay.
I heard your daughter at an art show, River, saying, "I can touch anything I want to because this is my mom." I think she was kidding though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. But yeah. They change though. It's just, there's certain ages and you're kind of in the midst of all the hard ages, Peter.
Well, the older ones are the difficult ones right now. Like the two younger, once I was done changing diapers and, middle school, it smoothed out a little bit for those two. And then, getting the older two ready for the real world, whatever that is these days.
Well, I am gonna end this at the moment, so I can stop Facebook. We can stay around and talk, but this is the end of the show. Next month, we will be featuring Jen Knox. Thank you all for joining. If you're watching this later on YouTube, please subscribe if you enjoyed our show. So with that, I will. So many things here.